Comparing and ordering integers, Unit 2, Lesson 2, SOL 6.3b. In this lesson, you should be able to compare integers using a number line. You should be able to order the integers using the number line. Remember what an integer is? It's a whole number and their opposites, including 0, like -8, -4, 0, 4, 8, etc. The negative numbers are the set of all real numbers that are less than 0, -8, -4, -2, etc. Integers. Can you give an example of an integer? Remember, they're all whole numbers and their opposites. So why is 10 over 2 an integer? Why is the fraction 10 over 2 an integer? Because 10 over 2 is really another way of writing 5, which is an integer. Give an example of something that is not an integer. For instance, 1 over 4, it's a fraction. We cannot write it as a whole number. Pi goes on and on and on. It's 3.14 on and on and on. It's not an integer. Neither is the square root of 2. Now the square root of 4 is an integer because the square root of 4 is 2. Negative numbers. Of course, we can give example of negative numbers. All the numbers that are less than 0. And positive numbers, numbers that are non-negative, are all the numbers that are 0 and above. What's an opposite? The opposite of a number is the same distance from 0 on a number line. The 0 serve as a mirror. Like for instance, here is 0, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and notice on the opposite side is the exact same positions. The same distance from 0 are your negative numbers. 0 is neither negative nor positive. It's the only number that does not have an opposite. It's its own opposite. How do we graph -7 and +7 on the number line? Well, you just go to the number line and mark -7 and 7. Seven is exactly 7 units from 0, and -7 is exactly 7 units from 0 on the opposite side. Same we can do for -5 and its opposite, which is 5. Remember, the numbers that are closest to 0 on the negative side, they have greater value, because as you go further and further and further to your right, the numbers get greater. So for instance, -2 will be greater than -5 because -2 is approaching 0, closer to 0 than -5. From any point on a number line, an integer value increases as you move right and decreases as you move left. And so we can order numbers on the number line. And that's a good thing to bear in mind. Keep the number line in your mind or write it down. And in that way, you can order these numbers. Remember, if you know the negative numbers, if you know the positive numbers, the negative numbers are exactly on the opposite side of 0, the same distance from 0 as its positive counterpart. So on the number line, we can find all these numbers and their opposites. Let's look at signs of comparison. Remember, less than, the arrow will point to the less than. 4 is less than 8. The arrow points to 4. The mouth opens up to the greater. Same here. 8 is greater than 4. So 8, the mouth opens up to the larger, the points to the smaller. Alligator mouth is greedy, and of course we have the equal, they're the same. So we can find out which sign is greater, which sign is equal to, and you'll be doing this next. How do we use integers in the real world? We can use them to describe the statistics in sports. We can use them to describe the level you are below the sea or above the sea. So we can use them in geography. We can use them to determine the highest a piece of land is or the lowest. This mountain is highest than Death Valley, which is lowest. And notice Death Valley is below sea level, even though it's land. We can use integers for credit cards, business, banking, money. We use integers to tell temperature, high and low temperature. We use integers again for altitude, whether we're floating on a raft, scuba diving, in the boat, snorkeling. We can tell who's the highest and who's the lowest by using integers. We can compare using integers, and remember the mouth is open to the largest and the points to the smallest.